Miss South Africa Shudu Musida is celebrating another major achievement this week. She graduated from Wits University with an honours degree in international relations. Graduation season hasn't been quite the same since 2020, as you know, with all ceremonies and celebrations happening mostly virtually. Shudu is joining us now to talk more about how she marked the special occasion. A very good afternoon. It's not every day one speaks to Miss South Africa Shudu. Welcome to Newsfeed PM. Thank you for your time. Let's start with that very question. How did you celebrate this week?
I didn't really celebrate much because it was quite a busy week, and also with the restrictions we have to adhere to regulations. So with my graduation on Tuesday, we had the virtual graduation, and then we just took pictures around the building, and then I got the honor of being invited for an interview at the university, and I came back home and I sat with my mother and my manager, and we just reflected on how amazing this is and how much work it took, and what this means for me and my family.
We'll chat about your visit to Wits shortly. I want to ask you about the meaning of this graduation. I was going through your timeline and I realized that it had quite a lot of a sentimental value as far as the late great matriarch of your family is concerned.
Yes. So before my grandmother died, in 2015, I took a gap year, and her last wish for me, she told my mother that Abi must go to school. She needs to go to school. So education was quite important to my grandmother and my grandfather, because they didn't have an education. So they made sure that their children had an education, and they saw the results of that, and she wanted that for me. So after I did my first degree, I fulfilled that promise. I fulfilled her last wish for me, and I just had to take it a step further and do my honors.
I would imagine you've heard this even as you were studying, people saying, come on, you already Miss South Africa. That alone is going to open doors for you, not only in the country, but likely internationally as well. Why still pursue a degree?
Education is really, really important to me. For the longest time during my undergrad, I knew that I was studying for a bigger purpose. But then in my final year, I realized how in Africa, especially, there's a need for African solutions to African problems. And if I could just educate myself more on that and just educate myself on the things that are happening that could bring solutions to Africa, then I would like the opportunity to do that. So my thesis, or my long research paper, was on the human security implications of hydropower projects, focusing on the DRCs, the Grand Inga project, and the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. So my focus has been on just trying to understand the continent that we live in more. So education is the tool to that.
And that's a fascinating topic. Do you care to share some of your findings from that research, especially because something like the Grand Renaissance Dam is the topic of such conversation? You've got the Ethiopians and I believe the Sudanese as well not seeing it quite the same.
I think it's from what I'm seeing, or from my research, I found that this is an important project for the Ethiopian people. I mean, they went as far as putting forward their own money towards the project. So you find that it's needed for the development of the Ethiopian people. Obviously, there are some water security issues and food security issues that are of concern for the other parties involved. So yeah, that was my finding there. And then with the Grand Inga project, I found that the local actors are the last to benefit from its if it comes to fruition. So the local actors on the ground would be the last to benefit from it. So it made me realize how, even if with most projects, especially in that country, it benefits other actors, external actors, more than the people on the ground.
And at the risk of making relations between us awkward in this moment, your graduation unfortunately attracted a degree of controversy. People said you had received preferential treatment from Wits University because there was that video of you walking down and being capped by the VC. What exactly happened there?
So I had my virtual graduation, and there was a lot of misconception around that. So what happened was I had my virtual graduation. After my virtual graduation, I got an email from the university saying the vice chancellor would like to have an interview with me regarding the work that I do in terms of mental health, and giving a message of hope to students, graduates that are graduating from a mental health perspective. And I got there, we had the interview, and then I asked if I could wear my gown, because a dream of mine has always been to wear my graduation gown on the Wits grounds. So I wore my gown, and then I asked if I could walk across the stage, and then my friends took a video. I just wanted that for my mother. And yeah, so basically it was an interview, not a graduation, because I had my virtual graduation earlier on, and we did the interview. We spoke about a range of issues, including gender equity, mental health, most of the work linking to or relating to my work in the mental health space, because of the work that I've done regarding students and mental health on my Mindful Mondays show.
And with the benefit of hindsight, I find we always all wiser with hindsight. Do you think it could have happened differently?
Pardon?
Do you think things could have happened differently with the benefit of hindsight and all the backlash and, as you say, misconceptions?
In all honesty, being invited by the Vice Chancellor for the interview, it was a big moment for me. He was wearing his graduation, his regalia, and I wore mine. So I don't think I would have done anything differently, but I do understand the misconception that is on social media, and I do understand where most people are coming from. And maybe I don't really think so, because I just believe there was a misconception as to what happened on that day.
Let's talk about something else that's coming up. So second graduation, you're Miss South Africa. Soon you'll be competing internationally, but you've also got a book coming out. I'm looking at the title here, Shudu Finds Her Magic. What's that about?
Shudu Finds Her Magic is a story about my life. So I was bullied for so many years, 7 years, and I moved from being this sparky girl from the village to having my voice silenced. So finding my magic has happened through me, through growing up and eventually becoming my Miss South Africa, basically rediscovering my voice and overcoming what had happened to me and the mental health implications of that. So the whole point of the book is to educate children about mental health, because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. She's a psychologist, and we realized that for the longest time I was struggling with my mental health, but I didn't have a name for it. And so many kids don't have ways to define how they feel. But imagine if we could write a book that could help them identify mental health and be familiar with mental health, and realize that, okay, if you are being bullied or you are going through something, speak to an adult, speak to your teachers, find a safe space. Speak until you're heard. That's what an educational psychologist once said. Speak until you're heard. And that's the biggest thing about bullying, because when we don't speak about it, there's so many implications that happen in our society. There are a lot of kids that are dying by suicide because of bullying. So if we can encourage them speaking up, then that would be a great feat on our side. So we partnered up with the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, child psychologist, Jacana Media, to make sure that we relay the message of mental health to kids in a way that they can understand and in the way that they can be comfortable with growing up, and in an effort to destigmatize mental health, because that's how I believe we change the narratives in our societies about mental health that exist through education.
And I suppose the long-term goal there would be also equipping schools and townships and villages where you and I come from to have someone such as a counselor at hand to understand the issues, because I recall when I was in school, for example, teachers would perhaps brush off instances where we bullied each other as just, oh, it was just a moment, but actually it would have been, if you were familiar with the situation, would have been a long-running thing, and we take such things differently as people.
Yes. So I've been doing a lot of work in the background to try and make that a reality, where not only do children need to be educated about mental health, but teachers as well, so they can be able to identify when a student is going through something. So I think for the longest time, I remember when I spoke about my mental health for the first time, the common thing around me was, which one of your friends told you about this? Not, are you going through something? Are you okay? What can I do to help you? So if we start changing the conversations that exist in our societies around mental health and bringing those conversations into schools, our community, and into our homes, a lot can change in terms of destigmatizing it and basically building up a generation that is self-aware, because without self-awareness, we can't have even a generation equality society.
Finally, pageant-wise, where are we going next? You're going to be competing internationally, as I say.
Yes. We're going to Miss World. The competition will be on the 16th of December. I'm so excited to be representing our country and to take my Beauty with a Purpose campaign on a global scale, to speak about mental health on a global scale, as I've been doing. So to go there knowing that the work that we've done as Miss South Africa has been so impactful, and trying to make this a global conversation is something that I'm very, very excited to do.
All of the best with that, and we do hope that you bring it home and we have a conversation with you once you've won that crown. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Shudu Musida, Miss South Africa, on Newsfeed PM here on Newzroom Afrika today.
Thank you so much for having me.